What's up, curious youngsters? In recent weeks, a topic has been dominating newspaper covers, news broadcasts, and trending on social networks. It's the coronavirus, which apparently could devastate all of humanity. The end of times, the apocalypse, World War III. Anything could happen if this pandemic starts to spread to every corner of planet Earth. The Chinese may have acted irresponsibly by consuming virtually any creature for many years. We may have ignored the Simpsons' predictions, but now it's happened. This isn't the first major pandemic humanity will face. Throughout history, numerous viruses have emerged, causing the deaths of millions of people, and that would seem to have no comparison to the coronavirus. Because of this and much more, these are the 10 most lethal viruses in history. 10 yellow fever, 10 I hate mosquitoes. In the summer, they drive us crazy when we try to sleep, and they attack us and buzz in our ear all night. Or when we go camping somewhere, and all we can think about is not getting bitten by too many mosquitoes. Anyone might think that a tiny insect can't do us much harm, but not exactly. Mosquitoes are responsible for killing nearly 1 million people a year by transmitting different diseases to them. Yeah, let's go with the shocked owl. Mosquitoes transmit many diseases, including yellow fever, which is endemic in the tropical regions of South America and Africa. It's not worldwide. Tourists visiting these areas are often advised to get vaccinated against this virus. Yellow fever is transmitted by mosquitoes. After biting primates in the jungles and then going to nearby towns and there biting people and so on, until reaching the big cities. This fever is known as yellow, mainly because those affected begin to see a clear discoloration of their skin and eyes, much more yellowish than normal. And this is due to a body reaction to the degradation of red blood cells. This terrible disease kills over 50,000 people annually. Despite vaccine availability in affected regions, the lack of education and sanitary control provides a fertile ground for the virus to spread. 9. Cholera. Cholera is a disease that was very popular a few years ago. 3 major pandemics in the 19th and 20th centuries caused the death of over 3 million people. This disease is transmitted through tiny bacteria that are found in fecal matter, and they are transmitted to people when they drink water or eat contaminated food. As I mentioned earlier, this disease still exists today, but it is largely limited to less developed countries, where the infrastructure is lacking and health is subpar. What usually happens is that in the absence of drainage systems, people's waste ends up coming into contact with running water systems, which makes people get sick when they try to drink water. This disease severely affects the digestive system, causing dehydration through persistent vomiting and diarrhea. Although, like everything there is treatment, it just depends on the area where the patients live. 8. Typhus, luckily nowadays, almost extinct. This virus was very present in past centuries, where hygiene conditions were very poor. This illness spreads via flea and louse bites. They also defecate on human skin. The problem is that the typhus bacteria are in the fecal matter of these tiny bugs. The person scratches unconsciously and those bacteria enter our bloodstream. The great typhus pandemics were seen in the 20th century due to the severe overcrowding and poor hygiene of the multiple wars all over the world. Most of the deaths at the hands of these bacteria occurred during World War II, where soldiers and prisoners from different concentration camps suffered from the bites of various fleas and lice, thus contracting this terrible virus, which ended up killing more than 4 million people. Additionally, a not insignificant detail is that this disease is characterized by attacking the nervous and circulatory system of the body. Be prepared for various symptoms, including body pains, skin rashes, spots, and vomiting. It destroys the body, but fortunately, treatment exists and the virus is not very significant today. Cleaning products are always in high demand after natural disasters like earthquakes or tsunamis. To urgently prevent future pandemics from attacking towns in circumstances of such exposure, 7. Rage. Surely when you walk down the street, unless you live in Holland, there are stray dogs. And there are times when they approach and, well, we end up petting them. But beware, apparently that could be your end. While it's best not to exaggerate, if a street or domestic animal without proper, rabies vaccination were to bite you, it would be a serious concern. If bitten or scratched by it, you have a high chance of getting rabies, one of the world's most classic diseases. Despite beliefs that it's a myth, more than 60,000 people die worldwide every year due to this cause. Apparently, rabies is quite controlled in most continents today, except in Asia and Africa, where less pet vaccination leads to easier virus transmission. Rabies is primarily found in dogs, but can also infect other animals like bats or cats. Rest assured you won't get rabies by petting a stray dog, or even if it licks your skin. You would continue living without any problems. The virus appears when the animal hurts us or when it licks a wound. Rabies in animal saliva becomes problematic when it contacts human blood. We've already lost 6 to malaria. We're back to mosquitoes as the most hated living beings in the entire universe. Of all the diseases these flying pests can spread, there's yellow fever, as previously mentioned. And there's also dengue, Zika, and malaria, the worst of them all. This disease hasn't gone out of style, unlike many of the pandemics in this top. It continues killing countless people. But how scary is that? Although it has seasons depending on Earth's climate, there are concerns about the frequency of natural disasters and other issues. Throughout history, it killed over 65 million people. Complete madness. Malaria is caused by a bacteria that is in some infected mosquitoes, which when they bite us, deposit it in our bloodstream. This bacteria will travel to our stomach like a small fish. Once there, it begins to develop and generate other types of parasites, which are going to infect the red blood cells of our body. And as you can start imagining, if something so important gets infected, we can die quickly. 5. Black Plague. Who has never heard of the well-known Black Plague? Do these horrifying masks look familiar to you? The Black Plague was among history's deadliest pandemics, killing over 75 million people. When the population was much smaller than it is today, imagine that there are studies estimating that up to 60% of the European population could have died. This disease became famous in the years 1300 to 1700, where it managed to develop mainly in Europe and Africa. Due to extensive naval trade across Europe, it was common for poor sailors to live with rats on ships and in ports. That is the source of all the problems. Because apparently the Black Plague, or bubonic plague, was in the rats. And when the fleas or lice bit them, they became the transport of the virus until they bit the poor people. 4. Spanish flu. Like most people, we've all experienced the flu at some point. It was a simple seasonal flu linked to the weather, which afflicts our body for a couple of weeks before departing. But the big problem occurs when the flu we catch is not human, but comes from another animal. That's where the real strength of this virus lies. For example, the well-known swine flu H1N1. From 2009, it carried genes from pigs, chickens, and humans, evolving into something much more lethal, causing widespread panic. And one of the most well-known flus in history was the Spanish flu, which hit Europe in 1918, and it managed to end the lives of between 50 and 100 million people worldwide. As we can see from the date, this flu became known at the end of the First World War, as it had been forming during the war all over Europe, due to the unsanitary living conditions of a large part of the population. 3. Measles. We are getting closer to the hardest diseases, and we find measles. This disease, known for its distinctive red skin marks, is highly contagious, similar to rubella and chickenpox. And by just touching or breathing near a patient, can we get infected without any problem. This virus has affected humans for millennia, and there is a record of more than 3,000 years old where they talked about this disease that attacked our ancestors. And after making estimates, it is assumed that this great disease managed to kill more than 200 million people throughout history. Measles basically attacks a person through a virus, and the consequences range from large areas of red spots all over the body to inflammations of the lungs or the brain, which can cause major complications in the person and lead to death. The good news is that the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine prevents infection by helping our body generate the necessary defenses. 2. Smallpox. This disease is considered the worst pandemic that ever set foot on planet Earth. managing to end the lives of more than 300 million people. Smallpox is caused by a virus that only affects people and is transmitted through body fluids and direct contact. Moreover, it's not a new phenomenon, believed to have affected people for at least 10,000 years. Primarily, smallpox causes serious problems in the internal organs and also hundreds of skin eruptions that used to leave lifelong marks for those few survivors. This disease was so lethal that at one point there were ancient towns that hoped their newborn children could survive the disease. Only then would they name them. The good news is that this is one of the few major diseases considered completely eradicated, so we no longer have to worry about it. In this case, since 1981, coronavirus. The current pandemic reached the top spot, not for being the most lethal, but for its rapid and effortless spread. Also that, let's say, it is the main mind of the world population, and it is what we all must protect ourselves from. We can't predict if it will be the worst virus ever in human history. To date, over 100 people have died, and thousands are infected. But being more than 7 billion people, an ultra-contagious disease like this, if it were to branch out all over the world, could reach record numbers of infected people. The bad thing is that just like in horror movies, there are infected people who try to hide the symptoms. And this puts everyone in danger. The good thing is that actions have already been taken. And for example, hundreds of airlines have stopped flying to China. In addition, this country is so powerful that it managed to quarantine entire cities. And they are building hospitals in record time to treat the sick. What we won't know until a few months or years from now is whether the coronavirus will achieve its mission and thus generate a small apocalypse for the human race. And that's when all the apocalyptic zombie movies you've watched will serve a purpose, and we can really prepare for the end of the world. Before I go, let me say hello to some subscribers. First, a huge hello to Rafael Horena. Also a little hello to Secret Hero, who was waiting for his greeting. Another big hello to William Gamanel Navarrete, and another greeting to all of Peru. Then I'm sending a greeting to Gustavo Bautista, who I also owed a greeting to for quite some time. Also, another big hello to Jose Gamer 27, another little greeting to Esmeralda Spiral. And then I'm going to greet Laura Vanessa, another greeting for Damaso Terrero Medina. And finally, I'm going to greet Tadeo Fernandez, another greeting for Hector Parmo. And the final greeting goes to the excellent Benjamin Carpio. Please like, comment, and share this video and channel with your friends. Thanks for watching. Mr. Curiosity signing off. Subscribe and click the bell to stay updated on new videos. I'm Krusty.